Good afternoon, everyone. Well, first thing I think is to make it all clear, UNESCO has no ideology. It's a very controversial concept, but we have very basic principles for which we stand for, and that draws in from the UNESCO's constitution. One of the most important phrases is saying, and this is immediately after the Second World War, the most devastating in history, painful to this day. And there was a phrase that was crafted then which says, wars are made in the minds of men, and it is in the minds of men that peace must be constructed. And that profound statement guides what we do today. Of course, that profound statement needs to be unpacked. The kind of mindsets and behaviors we have today is completely different from 1945. UNESCO, by calling for international and intellectual collaboration through scientific research, cultural exchanges and dialogue, etc., wanted to work on three major principles or three major challenges. The first is to make poverty history. Many economists, including myself, would say statistically we've made significant progress. But that is only statistics. We've got millions of people starving today and living under poverty, so the challenge still remains. And the second one was to create intercultural dialogue so that people do understand where other groups of people, individuals come from, so that they can understand tolerance, cherish diversity, and make the world a much more peaceful place. That is not happening as fast as we want. We probably, since the last 70 years, we're at the worst time in history where violence is cutting across many continents, including in the neighborhood we're in. And that is not a tolerable situation. And UNESCO is also called upon to work on sustainable development. And that sustainable development is different from what economists again call development, meaning trying to bring the people of the South to the economic standards of the North. That, to a certain extent, has been done in certain parts of the world, and in many parts of the world there's still a lot to be done. But sustainable development is everybody's business now. The world has limited resources, and we cannot continue consuming the way we consume, produce the way we produce, and assume that the world is going to be a better place. At least we can see on the impacts of climate change, etc. No one would have expected that we will all be feeling terribly cold in this wonderful Tel Aviv, but that's, I don't think I need to give you statistical figures to show that climate change is impacting everyone. So the challenges are, after 70 years, even with tremendous technological progress, with human ingenuity, challenges remain. And one of the emerging challenges, of course, is digital safety. While technology has given us tremendous opportunity in many areas, because there isn't any sphere of life technology hasn't touched on, it has also negative consequences. One of the biggest is obviously the digital divide that has been created, and that needs to be closed as fast as possible so that everyone in the world has access to useful, relevant and timely information. We also need to educate our youngsters, the young women and men in the world, the marginalized groups, etc., to actually be skilled in what UNESCO called, and Evgeny yesterday has actually given us a definition of what we call MIL, Media Information Literacy. Yes, I get a confirmation from my vice chair. And I'm delighted on behalf of UNESCO to be associated with the three discussions, very rich discussions we've had over the last 3 years. This is a milestone in terms of UNESCO's involvement in charting in new areas. And this is something UNESCO will encourage, will participate, and I'm once again grateful for UNESCO's IFAP program being at the forefront, the two chairpersons who've pushed me to the limit to make sure that I get engaged and UNESCO is mobilized. But if there is one message I want to pass on, is that I think the world needs to stop thinking that it's only one organization, one country, one institution that's going to solve this enormous, multifaceted, holistic problems we're facing. So we need to create a much more stronger coalition amongst all the stakeholders so that this critical agenda of digital safety, which impacts on every facet of our life, actually is dealt with in a sensible, rational, and equitable manner. For that, UNESCO, once again, thanks all the institutions that's made this conference possible, and I'm delighted to be part of this occasion to launch the forum. And UNESCO will do everything possible to support it, but we also calls upon every one of you and those who are not represented here to join in this incredibly important movement for digital safety. I thank you very much, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allow me to invite now a lady that helped us so much, Mrs. Graciela Samuels, the senior advisor to UNESCO's Director General. If you could please give us some words of support. You've been so supporting, so it's our pleasure to invite you now.
After you, Engida, what can I say? Where are you? I admire you, you know that. Thank you very much. I came late, I'm sorry. But I strongly believe in the work that you're doing and sharing, which I think is something the world has to learn. To share, to understand, and not to discriminate. So, from Paris to here, thank you for being here, and thank you for having me.
And allow me now to invite a friend that supported us throughout this long journey so far, and I hope that will continue to support us this way. The Chair of Information for All program in Russia, the Vice Chair of Information for All program at UNESCO, the ex-Chair of Information for All, the godfather of the Well-Being Project, the one and only Mr. Evgeny Kuzmin.
Dear Roni, dear Galit, dear Dalit, dear friends, dear Mr. Getachew Engida, Indrajit, and other friends, new ones and old ones, I would like to repeat what I told at the opening of the conference. I am very, very proud that the idea of this conference was born during my chairmanship in IFAP. Actually, we started to discuss this topic under different names several years ago. It was conferences on media and information literacy. It was about this, or approximately this. It was a conference, another conference on internet and social cultural transformation. What we discuss here? We discuss how our world are changing. So we did not touch, precisely the topic of institutional change, because social cultural transformation is, in philosophical sense of the word, is the changes of balance between different societal institutions like religion, education, law, government, economy, and so on. But actually, we discussed one of the aspects of big social cultural transformation that are ahead of us. We reflected on many aspects of the subject. We discuss this from the point of view of different sciences, philosophy, sociology, anthropology, economy, and so on and so on. And last but not least, from the point of view of common sense. This is the common sense, is very, very important in our reflections. Sometimes common sense, was presented in very humoristic, manner. The conference the conference was very promising in the very beginning when you received first notice or first invitation to come and to save your time. And in the end, it turned to be very interesting and very exciting. Although we felt fully exhausted of such intensive program, sometimes we felt that it was killing us. It is unbelievable, if we start to talk with our families what we did here. Who believes? Who believes that we slept 5 to 6 hours when we are abroad at an international conference, International conference to our colleagues means a wonderful rest. So we really worked intensively. Although I know, and many of you know, that how exhausting it is to listen to clever people. But still, I think that will be one of the most memorable events during at least my life. I'm very satisfied to be here. I'm very pleased to talk to many of you, to listen to many of you, to learn from you. And I would say that it should be continued in some way, be that another conference or online forum or face-to-face forum that Roni was dreaming about and still is dreaming. I don't know who will be a chair of this forum, who will take this burden over him or her voluntarily. Someone will be identified, someone will express his wish to do this. I believe this. As to me, I invite all of you to another conference that can continue outcomes, results of this very conference. It will take place next year in Russia. I love to hold conferences in Russia in far corners, and one of such far corners is city of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. This is Russian Far East, at the coast of Pacific Ocean, nearby, a little bit above Japan. The first conference took place there 2 years ago, and fantastic outcome of the conference was it was sponsored by local government, the government of region of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. You know how it happened. How it happens. Someone pays for the conference, to invite foreign guests, to find money, to to convince taxpayers and different branches of government that it is necessary for them to bring experts from all over the world, to welcome them, to provide their sleeping, to provide their eating, entertainment, and so on and so on. And it is very important that people who are sponsoring are not disappointed. I believe that Israeli sponsors of the conference and Israeli organization, like National Commission for Unesco, like several universities who paid money for us, Minister of Foreign Affairs will be glad that they did it. And this excellent feeling of satisfaction should be transmitted to other people. Because who is benefited? Israel first benefited, because Israel, state of Israel, showed itself to the world audience in the best possible way. And same feeling I always experience. And same feeling was, to my surprise, was, experienced for 100% or 200% by local authorities of Sakhalin. They told that their population was so good and felt so satisfied after the conference that they invented opportunity to show themselves, to show their region, to show their culture, to show their scientists, to show their coast of Pacific Ocean, to show their caviar and crabs, giant crabs. So I announced this conference and I invite all of you to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evgeny. Now it's a very pleasant pleasure for me to invite Dr. Dalit Atrakchi, the Secretary of the Israeli Commission to UNESCO. Dalit has been extremely supportive. She supported me 3 times a day, and believe me, I needed that. She was simply great. Dalit, please.
Thank you, dear. You're exaggerating a little bit, but okay.
That's the place to do it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as we say, you exaggerate, but continue. As Evgeny, you started by repeating something you said at the beginning of the conference, so I will follow this trend. I told you at the beginning that about a year ago, the whole idea of this conference and the forum was just a floating idea on our minds, especially in Roni's mind, and nothing was done. And there were some points in the tragedy we passed through that I did not really see it happening. I thought it might be too much or too big or too difficult to organize. But to tell you the truth, the organizers, especially Dalit and Roni, did a wonderful job. And I would like to restart by thanking you all for being here, for coming and doing this wonderful job with us. You are all our friends now and our colleagues, and I do believe that what we started here will continue for a very long term, for many years to go. And I believe that we will meet very often again in the next, let us say, I don't know, decade or something, at least. So I am very, very proud to be here. I am very happy that all that happened. And sometimes it's like cooking at home. You prepare a great meal, you work on it for 3 days, and then, poof, 5 minutes it's gone. And everybody says, it was great. Okay, wow. I'm exhausted, but it was great. And finally, I would like to make 2 apologies. First is for exhausting you, for the fact that you are tired and you're going home really with the feeling that you've worked very hard for these 3 days. I must tell you that this apology is not really sincere. I'm very happy that you worked very hard. And personally, I really loved, and I was really proud to see the roundtables yesterday. I felt that real work is done, something really is happening, and I believe it is only a start to be continued. And the second apology is for all those of you who wanted to travel a little bit and explore the country and to see holy places or other places. Here I apologize, I suppose in the name of God or something, at least the God of weather. It does not permit us to take excursions around the country, but this is a great reason to come again. And I really thank you all for being here. Thank you all for making us so proud in launching this forum, and see you very, very soon, hopefully. Thank you.
Allow me to invite now our host today, one of the leaders of this initiative, Professor Yair Amichai-Hamburger. Yes.
Okay. I actually don't have anything to add. Maybe a few jokes. Okay, I won't use the presentation. I have half an hour presentation, so I'll cut it short. 29 minutes. I think that we all feel that we live in a digital jungle with a lot of complexity. And I think we are in this kind of a dilemma. We all have our safe zone. We are all busy. We are either academics or we are, working in a very, very busy and demanding job. Suddenly we have this freebie, 3 days in Israel, fantastic. And we actually, we are a bit related to this topic as well. And here we are, and we are in this junction, and I can tell you what I decided when I met Roni 2.5 years ago, and he told me his dream. And I said to myself at the beginning, okay, Roni is a bit, lunatic a bit, but he's a friend, I have to support him. Also, I'm a psychologist. But then I realized we're talking about well-being, and I chose to be a change agent. I chose to work with Roni and with other good people that got involved in this project. And I think this is actually the junction where we are. Are we actually going to walk out of our safe zone of what we're doing and what we feel secure, what we actually know? Or are we going to challenge ourselves? And I'm actually talking about myself because, I'm doing well. Why do I need this project?
Please continue.
Actually, look, there is a swimming pool outside there. Did you notice? And I think that I want to be part of it. I want to make this well-being project part of my well-being. Because when I do, when I change, then I'm alive, then I develop, then I achieve actually something that has meaning. And I think the fact that we all came here and we are actually part of this huge, jigsaw, and only together we can achieve it. I mean, everyone said it here. Only together we can achieve it. We need everyone here. Everyone here has to be, from now on, to be the person that is putting a significant, amount of his time, energy into this project. We have to bring more people into this project. More academics, more policymakers, more industry. We have to bring more people into this project because this is really superordinate goal. This is actually something that we share together. It's so strange that we are experiencing the same thing because now we are all in one global village. We all depend one on each other. We need you, you need us. And we have to work together and we can do it. We can make it. We can actually achieve it if we actually choose to become part of it. Active player. I think we will be able to make it together. If we're all together, we will be able to achieve this fantastic vision and have a real impact on, on the world. I mean, it sounds like a fantasy. It started for me as, as some kind of a bizarre idea of Roni, but now I'm actually a soldier. I'm a soldier and a leader and a commander in this, in this army, in this positive army that can change the world. And I think if we will all, put together our energy, we will be able to make the change. Thank you very much.
Allow me to invite now our last speaker for today, the visionary, the one behind this project, the one because of whom it all started, the one and only Roni Aviram.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm blushing all the time. I'll start with a personal note, how I got this lunatic idea. Well, I am, in a way, lunatic, but I want to believe it's a good way, looking up and forward and not just to the step ahead of me. I'm a philosopher by nature and by profession. That's my discipline. But philosophers, I think, reach excellence in speaking quite often an incomprehensible language of real problems, but in a way that the people who suffer from the problem are not able to understand. And I got tired of that. And for these two, how to call it, hermetic atmosphere. And I was dreaming at night of growing tomatoes. That's how it started. I don't know why tomatoes, but that's how it started. Because I felt that I want to, and I was dealing a lot with self-fulfillment, which is directly connected to well-being, and I tried to change the educational system by harnessing the digital media to enhance the idea of self-fulfillment in school and change them as a change agent. And I have to say that I failed. So then I thought, well, of course, Israeli educational system is unchangeable, but maybe the world is easier to change. Nobody will be ever able to, until it collapses by its own fatigue or exhaustion, to change the Israeli educational system. But I hope it's much easier to. It's much easier to make some difference in the world under the concept of well-being through digital media, and through, it's more exact. I want to say a word. What do we mean? Mr. Getachew and Engida mentioned the forum, Dalit mentioned it. So what do we mean by the word forum? So the first answer is we don't know yet. And we still don't have money, which is the second question, obviously. But this should be a hub, institutional hub. We have to discuss with you, whoever wants to take part in this conversation, and with UNESCO people, what it exactly means, what will be the relationship between it and UNESCO, etc., and so on, and how we are going to raise money. But, and not only with you, don't be afraid, but with potential sources, but which we have already started to do. I just cannot declare that we have succeeded by now. What it exactly legally mean, how it's connected to UNESCO, what will be its sources of income, etc., etc. But I do have a vision of. Actually, we both have vision, Dalit and me, and I think now Yair shares it, of what it's going to do. Very general, but still we have. So the goal is to enhance well-being through digital media, but what action stems from that? So we think about two categories of activities. One, I call now, we didn't share this concept, but we developed the idea together, infrastructure formation. First is forming the concept of map of concepts of well-being that are relevant to our endeavor, because as somebody said, I mean, there are many concepts around, we heard few, there are others. Still, we have to start with from some place, so we have to have a map of concepts of well-being that are possible starting points, and somehow for each relevant project or process, choose one of them which is the most relevant. Of course, we have to discuss the relationship between them, etc., and so forth. The second, and this is can be done also because we have digital reality. I mean, it's much easier today to integrate knowledge. It is knowledge society in Brazil that you speak a lot about, and it's much easier to do today than it was 30 years ago. The second activity, still on the infrastructure level, is the development of, it can be called reservoir, or we prefer to call it, in light of the vision, smart archive, archive, I don't know how it is pronounced, archive, that integrate all kind of possible knowledge about the impact of digital media as they are developed through research. And again, it wouldn't have been possible, I think, 20 or 30 years ago, but to a large extent it is already possible. And it's very difficult. It's a huge task, an ongoing task, but there are such archives, so why not? And there are already such things relating to happiness. So why not about well-being and in and through digital media? Ongoing process. And we have to develop methodology that will enable I call it strong multidisciplinarity and multiculturality that we want to rely on. We want to rely on ongoing dialogue it's strong because it's between disciplines that never talk with each other, or sub-disciplines even that never talk with each other, developers and philosophers, or psychologists. They don't really talk with each other. And multicultural. It has to be relevant to everybody. So it doesn't mean following only one line of activity. There can be several lines. So we need to develop methodologies of doing that, and we have to look for them. That might end in another archive and a set of methodologies that enable other relevant endeavors, because it's an almost impossible task to develop a strong multidisciplinarity and certainly multiculturality. So this is the infrastructure. Once, it's not that we are going to wait until the infrastructure is there to start to act more practically, because it will never end. It will be an ongoing iterative loop. So on the practical level, we think about 3 or 4 kind of working groups. Once, and what we had yesterday was a small first step of such working groups. But again, we need much more methodological knowledge to know how to form them and make them effective. And it's a working group of various professionals from various disciplines with developers, thinking how to incorporate elements that enhance well-being in every possible, every relevant application or platform or social net or research engine to deal with some of the problems and many others that were mentioned here and many others that were not mentioned here, and to take advantage of the potentialities that are there but not yet recognized. The second is work with educated and people who are, Evgeny, tell me again the term because I'm afraid not to use the right one.
Media information.
Media information literacy. With people who are experts in media information literacies and think on these literacies in light of well-being concept, and see maybe we can come up with a little different list or a more encompassing list, or maybe not, I don't know. But we have to do the thinking. And third is the policymakers. That were not by chance, it was not arbitrary yesterday, the 3 working groups. So a policymaker, what policies, auditing policy, regulation policy, etc., that should be enacted in order to enhance well-being in digital media. So I think we had yesterday the real first step, the first step in such working groups, and I hope we will start immediately to advance from this step forward, not waiting for the infrastructure or the money. That should be done in parallel. And I would like to end by saying that, you know, the list of 10 or 20 or 100 ways to kill a good idea, and also bad ideas, all ideas. And of course, this idea can be easily killed in a moment. What do you mean by well-being? There are so many different meanings, and define well-being, and who are you to decide, etc. And then with such skepticism, we end by define, and we reach nowhere. So, as I said, my philosopher colleagues, sometimes a smart philosopher is a philosopher that forgets to be skeptical. Because we have to live also, not just doubt. So, and there are many other, the idea of the smart archive is very ambitious. The issue of how are you going to isolate variables in research is extremely difficult in such complex situation. How can in real life, not in laboratory, how can you create real impact that you want in such complex, that was dealt with actually in this context at least twice, in such complex system, which is very chaotic. And okay, so the idea, and then if I see Ori, at the end of the day, corporate always win, etc. Okay, all can be said, and it might have some truth in it. But still, there are many projects that were launched in spite of such doubts. Most of them died, but some succeeded. This state is one of them. There are so many doubts concerning its existence and the possibility to exist, etc. And many other social and certainly technological projects. So there is time you have to put in parentheses, if I use Husserlian concept, doubt, and just act and hope for the best. So that's what I hope we will do and work for in the next, who said 1 decade? Okay, 1 decade is good enough. Thank you very much.